Hi guys, welcome back to the Taryn It Up podcast. Today we have a very special guest on for the third episode. My boyfriend, mi amor, my bestie, Rafa Caballero. I can't fully say his last name correctly still. I can't really roll my R's very well. Caballero. I avoided saying his last name for the first 6 months of our relationship because I just knew I wasn't going to be able to say it, but we're working on me rolling my R's slowly but surely. So I'm really excited because I have my boyfriend here today, Rafa. And Rafa, I am so elated to have you here. We're going to tear up all the things, our relationship today. That's what we're tearing up. We're tearing up a little Q&A, some questions that y'all asked me on Instagram. We're tearing up how we met. Yes, we met in corporate America. It's quite the juicy story. But before we get into all of those things, I would love for you to just give us a quick intro into who you are and a little bit about yourself, because you are the infamous Rafa Fafis that is in so much of my content, and sometimes I swear people like him more than they like me. Guys, I have to say, this is fucking weird. I mean, it's so exciting and fun, but it's also weird because in our relationship, we've never just sat down with mics and headphones and cameras and studio lights on us and had a conversation.
Or so outside of my relationship, I've never sat in a podcast room with headphones, a mic, lights in my face.
So right now we're trying our best to pretend like there isn't 3 cameras and studio lights and a mic and all these things around us, so we can just have a normal conversation like we do at home.
Yeah, so the first couple of minutes might be a little awkward, but
give us some grace here. Okay, it's Rafa's very first podcast.
Yes, but I'm excited to be here. I am. Okay, a little bit about myself. I am 35 years old, minus 5, 30. I'm 30 years old.
Almost 31.
Almost 31, yes. In 2 months, I had a lot of anxiety ever since I turned 28 to hit the 30th floor. But now I embrace it, and now I feel like a child again, which is really refreshing. I was born in Mexico City. I was born and raised. I moved to the US when I was in middle school to San Antonio, Texas. That's where I went to middle school and high school. And then after high school, I wanted to go to UT in Austin to study. And then I moved to Austin. I studied at UT, and then I graduated. And then I really liked Austin. I was like, I'm never going back to San Antonio. So I stayed. And then I lived in Austin for 4 or 5 years working up until COVID hit. And then stayed in Austin. Then I met a little cute little girly called Tatis. And now I'm here still.
Yes.
I'm very happy.
He always says if he hadn't met me, he probably still wouldn't live in Austin, because he's been here 11 years.
Yeah, and I think I have gotten to the point where, yes, I have been in Austin for maybe 11, going on my 12th year. And I do feel like I've been outgrowing it. I do feel like a change could be good. And now being in a relationship, it's okay, nice. Yeah. Now we think for 2. And
yeah. And we have 2 kids now.
We do have 2 kids.
So that's a whole nother layer.
I'm a father now. Yeah. I have 2 little cats that I have grown to love. I think at first, I've never been a cat person, to be honest. Not that I had anything against them, but, I think it's a lack of exposure. And I remember when we started dating and I started hanging out at your apartment. I was like, dude, get these little compas off of me.
He was so mad because every time he'd sit on my couch in a black outfit, he would just stand up and be covered in a layer of hair.
Yeah, and I wear, a lot of black shirts, black pants, or just dark colors in general. And I would just go visit you for 5 minutes. I would get home and the shirt is ruined, no matter how many washes. But anyway, after 2 years now of being together, I have grown fond of them. And I consider them my own children now.
Yeah. And what do you do for work?
I work at TikTok. That's where, you and I met, right? I feel like a lot of people know that, and we'll dive into that. I've been there for 3 years, and I primarily work on the paid side, right, of TikTok. If you're familiar with all of the ads that you see as you scroll on your For You page, and you might probably skip. I have a
you
little
probably
bit
skip
of
90% of
responsibility in it. Yeah. I essentially just help businesses and brands run ads on TikTok, which is really cool.
Yes, you are Mr. TikTok himself. He helps me so much with my TikTok. Believe it or not, this man is amazing at coming up with ideas. He helps me so much in content creation. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Very thankful for TikTok as a company, because we would not be sitting here today if it wasn't for TikTok, which is crazy.
That is true.
It's crazy how much TikTok as an app has changed my life. Like it has changed the course of my life. One, meeting you. Two, just getting the job there in general was like completely life-changing. And then three, being a creator has changed my life. Like it's crazy. I don't know. TikTok, I really do owe you some like serious credit for like helping shape my 20s. But before we get started with kind of the intro to the pod, what we're going to do here, I want to start with a like fun little icebreaker because my man over here is a little nervous. Okay. We got to get him primed and ready for the pod. First though, we have a bottle of wine here because it is 5:30. It's happy hour actually. So it's 5:30 PM. So let's have a glass. Shall we?
Yes, we shall.
ASMR. All right. Cheers to our first episode together and to hopefully many more to come.
Hello.
Okay, anyways, to get us started with this episode, we are going to share some of the icks that we have for one another. Just to get us primed, to get us prepped, to get us comfy here, we're gonna share our icks. Even in the happiest of relationships, you can't tell me there aren't still little tiny icks, right? Like there are gonna be little icks. It's the big icks you gotta look out for. Recently, somebody was asking me like what a niche ick that I have is, and it was like a man chasing after a ping pong ball. Like running and chasing after a ping pong ball. But like you chasing after a ping pong ball wouldn't give me the ick.
You haven't seen it though. I've never chased a ping pong ball.
It's true. I haven't seen it.
I feel like you're just going to put me on blast here.
This isn't an ick that you have, but this is just an ick for men in general. I don't think you've ever done this to me. When a guy's butt crack is out, that is unreal. If you have your ass crack out, especially in public, like he's bent over and his ass crack's out.
You just got to put a little coin in there. You know, it's okay.
Okay. My first ick that he gives me is
I'm nervous, dude.
He kicks his feet. Like when he lays on the couch, like I don't know if you guys can see this, but he goes like this. And he like kicks his feet like a little kid. Like whenever he's laying down or like, cause you have the like type of ADD, ADHD where you like can't stop moving. Like he's always shaking his leg. I don't know if that's ADD or ADHD. I think it's ADD. I really don't know. And I probably should know that considering I have horrible ADHD, but he is always kicking his feet. Like when he's laying down or like we're at the beach and he's laying on the beach, he's like kicking his feet.
But it's always like either foot that I'm always just shaking in the spot where I'm sitting, laying down. I've had that since I was a kid. When I was younger and I would go to like, you know, church with my parents as a kid, I would just be like shaking. And my mom would get so pissed. And it's just something that, you know, 30 years in, I still got to
You can't
move.
give it up.
Yeah,
you can't give it up.
I can't.
So you kicking your feet, sometimes it gives me the ick.
Okay, that's fair.
Your turn.
Like, I don't know if this is considered an ick per se, but it's, you know, little things that you do that are a little annoying.
Okay.
Okay, one thing is anytime that we are eating, whether it's at home that we cooked, whether we're at a restaurant, I'll go get napkins for us. I'll sit at a table and if we're out, like I'll bring, you know, 5 napkins. You use one, you fold it, you use it again, you fold it again. If there's 5 napkins on the table and you get a little bit of food in your mouth, you grab all 5, you curl them up into a little ball, you swipe or you wipe your mouth once, and you throw all of them away.
I do that.
Every time we go out to eat, I have to get up to get maybe at least 5-6 times
Guilty.
to get new napkins. And the fact you have very bad napkin etiquette.
That's a good one. The napkin one is a good one. I do that. Such a bad habit. Like he'll grab me like 5 paper towels for us to share, and I'll just accidentally take the entire pile and wipe my mouth with it.
We're watching a movie and you just grab all 5, wipe once,
I know. It's a horrible habit. I need to change. That was a really good one. There's a few icks. His apartment's nice. It's a really nice. And he has a lot of plants and it's cool. And he has like pretty decent like furniture and stuff. Like when I first went there, I was like, oh, this is nice. This is cool. But there are a few things that were definitely an ick. One being the fact that his kitchen towel is a bathroom washcloth. Like that is the most like man like thing ever. Like it's a bathroom washcloth hanging on his oven.
It sounds worse than it is. Okay, look. I live in a very small studio, right? I don't have a kitchen. I have an oven, sure, but it's like I can reach it if basically I'm laying in my bed. The walk from the bathroom to the stove or the oven is what? 4 seconds.
5
so
seconds.
It doesn't feel like I have like my living room and kitchen. That's not an excuse, but yes, when I moved in, I bought, you know, my towel set for my bathroom, and then it came with like 2 or 3 of the little hand towels, and it was like a navy bluish whatever, and I was like, yeah, this will look fine in the oven, and it kind of stuck.
That will not be happening at our apartment together. We will be having kitchen towels and then bathroom towels. And at his apartment, another thing that gave me the ick just a little bit was that he keeps nothing in his fridge. All he has is a Brita water filter.
Fridge, good luck.
He has a Brita water filter, a can of Athletic Greens, and like sometimes like one half-eaten avocado. That is all that's in his fridge. There's nothing. It is a wasteland in there. I'm like, if I'm ever at his apartment, there's not a single thing to eat. There's not a single snack. All he has for snacks is one bag of Hershey's Kisses that he's had for 6 months sitting in his cupboard. There's nothing. It's like, you need to feed me for one, but how do you live like this? It's insane.
I feel like you just shot yourself in the foot.
I probably did.
You just shot yourself in the foot. Okay, so first, line of defense, and then line of attack. Line of defense, again, I live in such a small place. I don't have a kitchen to cook in. You agree with, right? Like I have like very minute
His
space.
kitchen's tiny.
I don't tend to cook at home. I'm always either at work, I'm out, I'm with you. For lunch, typically eat out, right? Get a salad, whatever. And then for dinner, I always eat a light dinner, right? I do have in my fridge, it is very empty, but it's usually what, like the Oikos yogurt.
You do have a yogurt like every now and again.
The little protein milks.
All he eats is protein shakes and protein yogurt.
Sure, my fridge could be empty. Let's talk about yours. Every time I go to over your apartment, I open the fridge. It looks like a supermarket inside, just based on how heavy it is. And while that sounds like, oh wow, you probably have a lot of stuff, things just live there and then just stay there, right? Like let's say you have a package of something. You can finish it, and instead of throwing it out, you put it back in the fridge.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of like putting things that are empty back into the fridge. And I will say I have a bajillion drinks in my fridge.
Like it's one of those things where like you open a fridge and you're like, oh wow, there's a can of whatever, like Poppy Olipop, and it's like, oh, it sounds refreshing, I want to have it. I grab it and it's like open and it has like one sip left, and it's like a drink he opened last week.
Because I'm just a girl living alone, like it's just me in there, you know what I mean? Like how he feels that it's okay to have a wasteland in his fridge, I feel like it's okay to have half drinking poppies in mine. My last ick for you is that there's two types of people when it comes to eating. There's the people who have their protein, their rice, and their vegetable. And then there's the type of people, the fucking psychopaths, like this man, who takes all the contents on the plate, puts it into a massive bowl, and mixes it like it's fucking brownie batter. He mixes every single thing we eat like it's a soup. It's so gross. And it gives me the ick. It gives me the ick. Like you mix it like this, and like he gets it all saucy, and like the bowls that he makes at home, when he sends me pictures of them, like it looks like slop.
No.
Yes, it does. So that's my third ick. Do you have a last one for me?
I can't think of any. I'll let you have the win.
Okay. I definitely took the W with that one. Now we are going to get into a fun story that we have told quite a few times, but today, instead of telling it necessarily from both of our perspectives, I want to let Rafa kind of explain the story from his perspective. For anyone who doesn't know, Rafa and I met at work when we were both working at TikTok in 2022.
I was working at TikTok before you were, right? Like I joined maybe, 8 months before you did. At this point, we were remote. I do think that is probably the reason as to why what happened. I don't know if it would have happened if we would have been in person, but...
I think it would have.
Well, yeah, maybe. But anyway, picture this, right? So working at TikTok remotely, a few months in, everything is through the Slack version of what we used to communicate internally, right? One day, early 2022... I am sitting in my apartment at work, and they add this person to like one of the Slack chats that we have, and they say, "Hey, we have a new person that just joined our team. Her name is Taryn Lamb. Welcome her all. Please be welcoming. She's going to be joining our team." And obviously, like you have a picture that you choose when you're signing up for this thing, and I see her name and I see her picture, and I was like, "Hold up." Like she's kind of cute. So I click on it and I open it and I was like, wow, I knew you knew what you were doing with that picture. It was a very professional picture, obviously. Like you look beautiful.
You're acting like I'm about to have a bikini pic.
No. It was like a photo shoot. Like you dressed up professionally, but like your face, like you looked amazing. I was like, wow.
Thank you.
Immediately looked you up on LinkedIn. Double wow. I was like, oh shit. But at the same time, obviously it's not like I'm going to be like, oh wow, let me go slide on this girl. Like, of course not. But I was like, oh wow, I just got a new coworker in my team. She's beautiful, but never thought anything would happen, to be honest. So moving forward a little bit, we all start having team meetings, this and that. I remember we had like a weekly team meeting that I would join. I'd be like, oh, nice, like have the little butterflies, like I get to see this girl, right? And
I was I never get ready for work, especially work from home. I would get in a full beat for this team meeting. I'm not kidding.
Same. And I mean, I wanted to look good too. Like I was like, wow, whatever. As we're joining this calls, like I'm seeing you interact and just speak and talk business, whatever, but I'm just like admiring it, like from a sense of like, wow, like she's very cute. But it's one of those things where like, nothing will ever happen. Like this is remote, we're colleagues, we work together, like whatever. I just work with someone who's cute. Anyway, one day, a few of the people, like obviously, TikTok tends to hire youngish people, etc. So one day someone says like, hey, let's all go to like a coffee shop to work together, and hang out in person and meet each other. And in that message, I was like, oh, I hope she reacts to it, like, because you can do like emojis, like, yes, no, thumbs up, whatever.
I was waiting to react to the message until I saw that he was going. I was like, I'm only going to this if this man's going.
And I don't remember who reacted first, but anyway, I found out you were going, you found out I was going. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I get to meet her in person. I got there a little bit late, and I know that in Easy Tiger, the tables are long. They're like a picnic style. So I was like, I hope that when I get there, I am in like close proximity to a place where like we can spark up a conversation and I'm not just sitting on the other side. So I get there was one space left at the very corner of the table, and to my luck, guess who was sitting in front of that empty space?
Because I plotted that shit so strategically because I wanted to sit by him and talk to him and get to know him. So I purposely spread out all my shit on the table so that no one would sit in that spot in front of me. Because I put like my laptop and my stuff and like my bag so that it looked like someone was sitting there. But in reality, I'm a mastermind and I was plotting. And then the second like I saw him walked in, I like moved all my stuff. I was like, and then he sat down.
And then I remember I sat down and I was like, oh, hi, yeah, nice to meet you. It's such a pleasure, whatever. And I mean, honestly, like the second we started talking, I was like, wow. Like I felt like the butterflies, little spark. But still, I think at that point, obviously, like it never crossed my mind, like I'm gonna get to know you in a different way outside of like colleagues, right? Like it was always like I have a cute coworker, like it's gonna be a work crush kind of thing.
I felt like his intentions never were to like flirt and hang out with me outside of work, but like it was kind of like we had this banter and this fun vibe. But I could just tell because I was the new girl and he was 5 years older than me and everything that he was not about to like slide. Of course that not. To me, like I want what I can't have. And I couldn't have, like, you know what I mean? I knew that there was just like a lot of work tension. And at first it's hard to decipher of whether like, oh my God, do I really have feelings for this person? Or is it like the work fantasy tension? And it was hard to figure that out, but it definitely wasn't just the work tension. I mean, look at us now.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought?
We just signed a lease. Thank you, TikTok.
Seriously, holy shit. But yeah, I mean, back in that moment as we're meeting each other, like, I'm obviously, as you can tell, that I was always very, very respectful. Mm-hmm. I never once crossed the line, even in a minimal way of like risking it, right? Because I always knew, I was like, just like you said, you just joined the company. I'm obviously older. I've been there for longer. Like the second that I make a move, if it goes wrong, I'm cooked.
You're
right?
cooked.
Like, yeah. And like, I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be myself. Sure. Like if we have a little vibe going, like nice, fun, but I'll never cross the line and I'll never formally like shoot my shot, to be honest.
Sliding on your coworker is so sketchy.
It's such a risky move, yeah.
But for me, it's like when I want something and I can't have it, like I can't help myself.
We were there for like, 2 hours, obviously didn't talk shit about work. It was like, where are you from? How you this and that, getting to know each other. I remember like we found a lot of commonalities, whether that's with like interest, travel, music, whatever. Like I was like, oh wow, like I have a lot in common with this girl. I'm sure you did too. And then I remember that talking a bit about work, you were like, oh yeah, I have like my first client call the following Monday. I'm so nervous. And I was like, no, you're gonna do great. Whatever. The day ended, we both left. I was like, oh, that was really fun. That was cool. I hope I get to hang out with her again.
I was like, I want to hang out with this man the rest of the day. I was about to ask him right there at Easy Tiger, like, so what are you doing? But I refrained.
It really was weird. Like, I know it sounds cheesy of like when you meet someone and in that first moment you just feel the spark. Like, it sounds cheesy, but it's weird that I did feel it, right? Like maybe this is also later in the convo, but like I'd never like had like a formal thing with someone that doesn't speak Spanish. So the fact that I felt such like a weird instant like energy that just gravitated to you was really weird for me, but exciting. I was like, what is this?
And I had never had an instant thing with someone who speaks Spanish. So I was like, oh, I love me a little Latin man, Latino man. Like I was so into it. And little did he know at that Easy Tiger hangout, I had already like stalked his family, stalked his past relationship. I already knew where he went to high school. Like I had done my fucking research. Okay. I'm telling you, I'm a mastermind. And I mean, all women do this shit. I'd already seen your like Instagram, but you were fucking private, which was so annoying. But also like green flag that you were private. So it was okay.
So we both leave, high emotions, very fun, obviously attracted to each other, but never thinking anything would happen. And then on Monday, I remember I messaged you through the work app as in like a check-in. And I was like, oh, hey, didn't you have your first call today? How did it go? Still keeping it professional, right? Like, it's like, how do you open up that first like slide, not necessarily like the first message? I had to play it safe. I asked about your call and you were like, oh, hi, yeah, it went great, thanks for asking. I was like, oh, what'd you talk about? And this and that, and like pretended to like help you and give you advice. Ha ha ho ho. And then I just feel like over the next,
well, I took that as like he just slid in my work DMs. I'm gonna take this somewhere else. So I'm like, oh my God, so I heard you have a Frenchie. Yeah. Oh my God, my brother has a Frenchie. And then I was like, wait, so like does your Frenchie come visit you? Because his Frenchie's his parents. And like I just kept the convo going and we talked like for hours that day. That's a big part of it. It's like our initial interactions were on not Slack, because TikTok has a different software that they use. It's not Slack. But we would talk for hours every day. But it wasn't like flirty. It was more just like getting to know each other, sending music, like very friendly, but also like there was obvious tension there. And it was like a little bit flirty, but it wasn't like flirty, like, oh my God. Because it's very sus to flirt via work
Obviously,
message.
Yeah. Like we never crossed the line. Like if you go look at the history, there's nothing wrong. But I was surprised. Like when I initially reached out and I was like, how did it go? This and that. Thinking that obviously we were just gonna talk about work, and then you immediately start asking me like, how was your weekend? What'd you do? Did you go out? Did you go this? Oh, I heard from one of the meetings that you mentioned you have a Frenchie. What's his name? Can I see a picture? I was like, oh yeah,
dude. I'm not afraid to slide on a man.
And I respect that. I mean,
I love sliding on a man. It's like I feel powerful when I do it. I think it's fun.
And I mean clearly, right?
And I also think it was just like I knew he was so respectful that he wasn't gonna slide on me, so I had to slide on him.
It's different. If I would have met you outside through, I don't know, going out wherever, like obviously the approach that I would have would be different, but the fact that I was trying to be respectful and not get in trouble, not make you uncomfortable, it was the first time I've ever played my cards like that. Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
and keep in mind at this point, we're still on the same team.
Yeah, we're on the same team.
So fast forward, because you kind of get the gist of what was going on. There was a little tiny flirtationship via work message. Next thing you know, there's a work happy hour coming up. And if anyone knows anything about corporate work happy hours, people be getting drunk. It's either you're dead sober or people are getting drunk. Like there's not really an in between. And at this point, I'm new to the company. Don't take my advice. If I was going to work happy hours still, like maybe I'd have one drink. But at this time, it's a very young company. There's so like I'm making friends with a bunch of girls there. I'm having so much fun. Like it's such a young vibe. So when there's a work happy hour and there's an open bar tab, we're drinking. Especially when it's like we just started and I was really nervous because I didn't know a lot of people. So I think like the alcohol helped the nerves, which is the dumbest thing ever because drinking at a work, getting wasted at a work happy hour is just, it never fucking ends well. However, we weren't wasted necessarily. We were at this work happy hour. We have tension across the table. I mean, you remember it. There was just like those, like the kind of the eyes, the tension. We didn't really talk that night, but there was definitely like, you could just feel the tension. And then a few girls, we've had a few drinks. A few girls are like, we're all going to go out on Rainy and West 6. We went to Rainy and West 6. And at this point, I'm a few drinks in and Rafa's like, okay, yeah, I'm down. I'm going to go. And so I'm like, oh, me too. I'm down. I want to go out.
We go out. We're on Rainy. And then we're all a few drinks in. Things are going well. We're having good chats. And then out of nowhere, you pull me and you're like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. I'm like, yeah, what's up? And then you pull me to like the side to get away from the people from work. I don't remember obviously verbatim what you said, but essentially you said something along the lines of, hey, I feel like we need to cut this shit. We both clearly have an attraction for each other. and I can tell that you're trying to be very respectful and you're never going to make a move. So I'm just going to be the one to do it. I like you. I think you like me. So what the hell?
And I was like, I find you really
no?
attractive. Like, I put it all on the floor. Like, granted, I had liquid courage in me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have been able to do that dead sober. Probably not. I had a few drinks in me. I had some liquid courage, and I just decided, like, I was so into him and attracted to him. I was like, I just have to tell him how I'm feeling. And I got the vibe back from him. So it's not like I was just like cold approaching necessarily, but I got the vibe back that there was something there. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to do it.
No, you called me out and you were just like, dude, let's cut the shit. Like, are you down or not? And you even said, like, I don't even know if this will go anywhere, but I just feel like we're both dancing around it. And I can tell you're never going to make a move. So I'm just making it. What's up? Dude, you called me out. I thought
did,
that
and
was...
he was literally like, I remember like mouth open, like...
I mean, obviously internally I was like, I mean, first off, this is so hot. The fact that like you have the courage to do this, but at the same time I was like, thank you, right? Like I would have done it earlier, but just
You
for
couldn't.
the reasons mentioned earlier, it was very risky. So the fact that you brought this up, it's like, there's no going back from that,
Yeah.
right? Like it'll go two ways. Either something happens or nothing happens, but at least the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
To me, that was like, that opens up the room of opportunity for me to start making some formal moves now, right?
Yeah.
I was excited. I was like, okay, now we're playing. Like, let's...
Yeah. So then, of course, the flirting starts.
The
like
flirting
we're
starts,
flirting
yeah, like-
hard that
Yeah.
night. We're with a few other coworkers, and they're like looking at us like, we'll just leave them over there. Like they're like, oh shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
But granted, when you put a bunch of a lot of good-looking young people in a corporate company in a young city that's super fun, people are gonna bang and people are gonna like hook up and they're gonna flirt. And so they were just kind of like, sayonara. And we were just in the corner, like talking all night. And then we left the bar, and Rafa lives on Rainy Street. Mind you, and we're partying on Rainy.
Yeah, I know that's a red flag, but that's a different conversation. So we are like very close to where I'm living, and it's just us, right? It's time to go home. We walk, and we both, well, she starts like pulling out her phone, like, oh yeah, I'm going to Uber. And at that point, like, just because we had addressed that we had something for each other, obviously it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, okay, you want to come home? Like, not at all. I'm not like that, but I was like, I can maybe make a little move. Like, let's see if there's anything, right? So as you're going home, I can tell you're kind of like diddy-dadding, like you open the Uber app and you're like, oh.
I'm like opening the Uber app and I'm like pretending. I'm pretending to call a car.
And she's
like I'm not
refreshing
actually.
it.
Yeah, I'm
like I
refreshing.
can tell she's just like
and
stalling.
I'm saying like, oh, it's really expensive right now. Like I'm stalling hard.
Yeah. But at the same time, like we were basically at the lobby of my apartment. So I was like, I was like, hey, I do live up here. Like, would you want to come up just to hang out while you wait for your Uber? And I feel like you knew. I didn't mean it as like
I got the vibe immediately from you that the last thing you were trying to do was like hook up with me.
Yeah. So you
which
knew that.
made me want to hook up with you more.
Yeah.
Like seriously, women want what they can't have.
And the funny thing is that I don't remember how I presented that idea, but I did feel like I did it in a respectful way that it didn't seem like a horny asshole that just wants you to take it home. Anyway, and you're like, oh no, because I know like you're gonna want to do something, something you said.
I was kind of trolling you. I was like, oh, I'm not going up to your apartment.
Yeah. And then I do remember that I was like, hey, like relax, like I'm not even trying to kiss you, like it's okay.
Yeah, he said, oh, I don't even want to kiss you. He said that.
I didn't say like a frat boy energy. It was like oh no, relax, like I wasn't even thinking of like even kissing you, like we can just hang out.
Which made me want to kiss him more. I'm telling you, like, don't tell me you're not trying to kiss me. You should be trying to kiss me.
So then when I said that, I just remember you just like looked at me like, what the hell did you say? And then you just grabbed my cheeks, my head, and we just kissed. And I was like, oh wow, like that's a double.
We did. It was a good kiss.
It was a good kiss. It was
a really good kiss.
Yeah, I guess.
It was on where the roundabout is on Rainy. We were sitting on the curb.
Yeah.
It was him being like, no, I'm not even trying to kiss you. And I was like, yes, you are. You're trying to kiss me. What do you mean? So I just kissed him and it was fun. And then
we did go upstairs.
Nothing happened. We just talked.
Yeah, we talked, like we played some music, like we had a laugh and then
that was it.
Called the Uber and then nothing happened. And then that's essentially how it began, right? Like
and then we just kind of started talking from there. This man, like I thought after that, like we cleared the air, he was going to start like texting me all the time. Like, nope. nope. Like he would message me here and there, but he was really strategic about it. Like, honestly, you did it so right because it's like, you did talk to me. Like you didn't ignore me. You never ghosted me. You did talk to me, but you didn't like bombard me with like, I'm so into you. I want to see you again. Let's go on a date. Like you were really strategic. Granted, we were still working together and it's still like, we didn't really know, were we going to date? Were we just going to hook up? What was going to happen here? Was it just coworker tension? Was it love? Like we didn't know yet. I kind of knew. I was like, I'm in love with this man. But you know, you never know. It's like we're coworkers. So we had to tread lightly, but you did a really good job of like talking to me enough, but not too much. And I think that's the hard thing for so many guys to figure out is like with women, it's like a girl doesn't want you to talk to her too much, especially in the beginning. Like you can't be texting her all the time, but you also can't ignore her. And it's like such a hard balance, but you did a very good job of that.
And I mean, I mean, ultimately it is, yes, how you play it, right? And I do think a part of why I kind of acted like that was because I didn't have a clear idea of what was going to happen with us either, right? Like it's not like I just wanted to hook up with you and then, you know, goodbye. Like I wasn't interested in playing any games like that, but I also it never crossed my mind like, oh yeah, one day I'm going to date this girl and move in with her and sit on a podcast room with her. I was like,
never.
I like her a lot. She's obviously very cute, but her personality is super cool. Like we get along really well. Like this has potential to go somewhere, right? That doesn't mean that then I'm going to start like bombarding you with messages and wanting your attention, this and that. And I was like, whenever it feels right, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, want to do something? Whenever it doesn't, like, I'll let you be, live your life, I'll live mine.
And we talked for like 4, 5, 6 months before we like made the relationship official. We really took a lot of time with it, again, because we worked together. So we wanted to make sure we were like 1000% committed into this relationship for the long term before we did that, because it could fuck up so many things at the office, which we'll have to do an episode about what it was like dating in the office, because that's like a whole nother thing.
And eventually we did go back to work. So like this first 6-month phase, it was still remote, right? And technically, while we might have been on the same team, it never
felt like we worked together.
Because our jobs were so independent. It's not like we ever had like a formal meeting where you and I are interacting professionally. Like our jobs are so like, you do your thing, I do mine. So like it never really felt weird.
Yeah, it never felt like we worked together per se, aside from the fact that we would message like all day at work and be like, oh, this client just emailed me this. Like we would rant about work and stuff a lot back and forth to each other. But then you have to know what happens next before we wrap up this story. But Rafa asked me to go work at a coffee shop. That was his next move. I had made all the moves at this point, so it was his fucking turn. He asked me to go work at a coffee shop on a Friday because, again, we were remote. So it's like we'd go work at coffee shops and stuff. We go to Better Half. I had tanned. I had curled my hair. I'd done my makeup. I was ready for this date. And we're working from Better Half, and it was really fun. We're talking. There's still like so much we have in common. We're just like having the best combos, I remember. And then tell me what you did next after that.
So given this was like our first official one-on-one hang, I was like, I need to plan this out very strategically. I can't just invite you out to dinner and make it like a formal date, because what if it's, you know, crossing a line or weird? This is a safe bet. We go to Better Half. We have our computers. So like, even though neither of us were actually there to work, it was like a nice hangout. The computers are there just as an excuse. And then obviously once we're wrapping up, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, haven't eaten. Have you eaten? Like, would you want to go get something to eat? You're like, oh yeah, I'm hungry.
When he said to me like, oh, are you hungry? Do you want to go eat? I'd already plotted an idea because I knew once the co-working session ended, like I knew I was going to want to keep hanging out with him. So I was like, yeah, let's go get poke and go to Zilker and like sit in the park. Cute ass idea. I suggested that. And he's like, no, I actually have a better idea.
As we were hanging out before, for some reason, we brought up like seafood and fresh, you know, like aguachile, ceviche, like it just came to the conversation. And you were saying like, I love ceviche. I love really spicy seafood fresh. And I was like, wait, what? Like that's sick. You know, like that's not normal. Typically like with white people, you know, so.
I do love a good spicy
And I was like, oh shit. And I knew of this place, which is like a food truck that serves bomb ass ceviche and aguachile. It's called El Marisquero. Shout out to you
Shout
guys.
out to El Marisquero. If you are in Austin, Texas, and you like ceviche or fresh seafood, go to El Marisquero. It's amazing. Unreal.
So given that we had brought it up and I knew that place was absolutely fire, I was like, you know, I have a better idea, but also very strategically. So this place in itself It was a food truck. And at the time, they moved locations. Now they're south. But at the time, they were by a gas station.
Like behind a gas station right off of I-35.
So if you've never been there and you drive past it and you see it, like, let's be real, you might have not been like, oh, that place looks good. Like,
no.
You know, if you're driving, you see it by a gas station, it's a small food truck. Like, it looks
you'd probably
a little
be
weird.
like, oh, I don't know, it looks kind of sus. And then you hear that you're eating raw fish and seafood, and you'd probably be like, oh, like that sounds sketchy, right? Yeah. Seafood behind a gas station off of a highway.
But I knew the place was fire, and I was like, you know what? This is a risky move, but I want to see how real you are. I want to see if you can hang. I was like, I'm going to take you to an amazing place of aguachile and ceviche. You're going to love it. I was like, the place might not be as visually appealing, and it also like removes that awkwardness of like going to go sit at a restaurant and have like a formal meal. I was like, this is perfect. We sit at a food truck. You can get like beer, fresh food. The food is going to be amazing. Like, I know it's going to be memorable for you. Yeah. And I'm going to test you to see like if you look at me like, ew, did you bring me to a gas station? Because that to me would have been like a, all right, nice. Like, I don't blame you, but you're not passing my vibe check, right? I want to see if you can hang.
At first, when we pull up, I'm like, where the fuck are we? Because like I had suggested Poke and Zilker, so I'm kind of like, he must be able to one-up me here. Like, he has a better idea. We pull up and I'm like, we're at a Shell off of I-35. There's this like food truck behind it. Like, cars are rushing past. I'm like, I mean, it's not the most romantic setting, I'm going to say it. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, this is an interesting choice, but I'm going to go with it. Because in a weird way, I liked that he wasn't trying super hard to impress me. Like, if you would have been like, yeah, let's go to J Prime Steakhouse. Yeah, let's go to Uchi. Fogo de Chao. Yeah, I mean, I love Vaganucci. I would be so down. But like, I don't know, it was kind of like attractive in a way that you were like so chill about everything. I was like, oh my God. And so anyways, and I knew that you were taking me to Mexican food. So I was like all in. I was like, fuck yeah.
But I do think still the fact that we had this previous week / months of like the attraction coworker, but we were kind of friends. Like, we didn't know if there was anything there. Like, I feel like if you meet someone on the street and you're starting to go on dates with someone, like if you take them there for a first date spot, like anybody would be like, really? Like, you couldn't have planned something different. But I think for us, the fact that we were like becoming really good friends, that were kind of attracted to each other, I was like, dude, I know she's not going to give a shit. Like,
I didn't.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I'd never had a michelada, which is essentially a michelada is beer, like Corona or Modelo or whatever beer.
A light lager, yeah.
A light lager with like spicy salsas and clamato, which is kind of like clam tomato juice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And a bunch of different spicy salsas and Worcestershire sauce and all these amazing combinations and lime. I'd never had a michelada in my life. And he's like, we're going to get micheladas. So they don't serve beer out of the food truck. So we go into the Shell. We buy Modelos. They give us a cup, like a big styrofoam cup at El Marisquero. And we make micheladas. And I'd never had one. And keep in mind, guys, like, I'm from Oregon. Like, I like spicy food. Like, but I'm like, at the same time, like, I haven't really experienced much flavor in my life. Okay. I grew up in fucking Wilsonville, Oregon. My taste buds aren't that mature, I would say. I'm not picky. I like a ton of different foods, but I had never had the flavor explosion on my tongue that a michelada gave me, especially because Rafa like poured a million salsas in it. I sip this thing and I get electrocuted. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's like a spicy salsa beer. Anyways, I didn't like it at first. I was like, what the fuck? Like, my taste buds were not cultured enough. Now it is like oxygen to me. A michelada when I'm hungover
You've been converted.
Is oxygen. Like, when we're in Mexico City, it's all I order. That in a mezcalita. Oh my God. So anyways, that was just like, that actually was the start, the birth of you like culturing my taste buds with Mexican food.
So that's the thing, right? Since we were talking previously about like the ceviche, this and that, and like that different dishes and my favorite things from back in Mexico, this and that, I was like, this is a perfect test, and like just to take you, see if you like it, like show you, because I know you're gonna love it. And I remember that when you tried the michelada at first, you were like, oh, it was weird. Like, it's
I was like spicy, trying to mask it. I was like, I like it. Yeah, it's good.
And then you're like, no, it's actually a little refreshing. And then you did love the food in itself. I mean, we've gone back.
Oh my God, we've gone back so many times, guys. This ceviche in aguachile, and they're like seafood.
Dude, and they have
quesadillas, they're tostadas. And you ordered us a bunch of food, which I just found so attractive. I was like, oh, a man showing me his food culture. I fucking love this. Like, this ain't no fucking hamburgers and fries, bitch. Like, he's showing me aguachile and all these things, and I was loving it. He was ordering all these different foods. He's speaking Spanish. I'm like, ay, que rico, literally. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I was thinking, ay, que rico. And he orders everything. we're sitting there. We have another like amazing conversation. We're eating. I think you loved that I actually enjoyed the food. Like I wasn't fronting.
Yeah,
I actually really
cool.
do love that food. And I remember that was the day that we were sitting there and I was like, and you had little cute like freckles because it was summer. And I was like, oh my God, his freckles are so cute. That's just something weird I remember from that day, that you had freckles. And I thought it was so cute. And
That's
then
interesting.
And then I went home and I was like, oh, God, I fucking love this man. He just took me to a gas station food truck and I love him.
Well, now imagine my perspective, right? Like I knew that obviously taking you to a gas station food truck was a risky move. Like maybe, let's be real, like a lot of girls might have been like, what the fuck?
That was our first date.
That was
it
like
truly was our first date.
Like
I consider that like our first date was El Marisquero.
Yeah. But the fact that, I mean, I took you there knowing that it could have gone horrible, but you had just like the best attitude and like you weren't sketched out at all. Like you were so interested. You were so genuine with the fact that you were like, oh, I want to try this and that. Like, what is that? And you were asking me so many questions and you were tasting it and you were like, oh, this is amazing, the michelada. And like you had this positive energy to it where I was like, wow, like she really doesn't care that that we're here. Like she doesn't strike me as the, no, you need to take me out of fancy stuff. Like there's always going to be time for that. But the fact that you were so happy in that moment, I was like I'm in trouble. One
of the absolute number one favorite things about our relationship and things that I've experienced this far dating Rafa is like truly some of my favorite memories in our relationship is going to Mexico and him just like showing me things. Like I love that shit. Like I don't know, it's just so fun. Like he shows me restaurants and food and like you took me and we got tortas ahogadas or whatever, and like they're like these drunken sandwiches with like, and then he showed me this and like I love that. Like I love when someone can like show me their culture and like immerse me in it and like learning about it. Like I've learned so much. And like we went to the anthropology museum and he's like telling me all these different things. Like I don't know. So I think that's like something I value so much in our relationship that's been so fun, is like just getting to experience new things. It is so fun to like be with someone you love and experience new things. I think you feel probably similarly in the sense of just like when I first brought him to Oregon, like, I don't know, I was kind of like, oh, like he grew up in Mexico. Like, I don't know if this will be that much cooler, but you were like in love with it and you had so much fun. And I feel like that was kind of I can't say that my culture is anything like yours because it definitely isn't.
Yeah. And it's not like one's better or worse than the other. Obviously they're different, but like they're very alike. And the fact that I've been here for so long too, like it's like I've kind of morphed into both, but I do hold obviously like the Mexico culture close to me. And I agree, going back to like initially as we were starting to meet and going out and this and that, like the fact that you immediately expressed so much interest in like learning about it. And I remember you were asking me like so many thoughtful questions just about like, what is it like? What was your childhood like? What was school like? Like, I don't know, like you just demonstrated this curiosity that to me was so cool and attractive. And it's something that, normally with people that aren't from Mexico, like they usually will say, oh, you're from Mexico City? Oh, that's cool. I've heard it's amazing. Or I've been, I love it, but it stops there. And you just kept asking. And I was like, that's so cool. And equally, right? Like when you were telling me from Oregon, I was like, I mean, I know it's up there somewhere, but I've never been up there. Like, I don't know what to expect. Yeah. And then when you took me for the first time, I was like, yeah, I'm so down to go see where you're from. And dude, I mean, if you know, like Oregon is probably one of the coolest fucking places I've ever seen.
Our Oregon trip is in my top 2 or 3. It was the best week of my life. And I did not think I could have that much fun in the state I grew up in because it's like, I'm used to it. We had the best time
But
ever.
It's just like, obviously you planned it all. I'd never been. So you did.
I curated
you seriously need to make a little guidebook. And
I know.
Like you planned this like perfect road trip that we drove all through the state. Mm-hmm. We went all through the beaches and the coast and then the mountains and then the desert and then Crater Lake.
Oh my God, I'm getting chills. And it was the best. Like I cry thinking about this trip. It was so special to me. Because one, it's so cool to get to show someone your home, just like how it felt when he first took me to Mexico City. This man had planned everything down to the 30-minute mark. It was like, we're going here, and then we're going here, and then we have an Uber here, and then we're going here. This man, like, he was curating so hard, which I get. It's so fun. And that's what I love about dating someone completely different than you. Because you get to, like, you both get to just teach each other things and show each other things. I don't think there's anything interesting about dating someone exactly like you. I don't know. So that was just, like, one of my favorite things about when we first started dating.
Yeah.
Although we're getting short on time here and I really want to keep going with the story of how we met and how we started dating. But y'all asked me some really good Q&A questions to ask Rafa. So we need to get into them before this gets too long. We've been talking about the different cultures and stuff like that. So one of the questions was biggest cultural difference in our relationship and what it's like dating a gringa.
I'll start off with this. I did say this earlier. Like, you're like the first official like gringa, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like non-Hispanic Latin person that
Rafa had never dated someone that wasn't Hispanic.
Not that I was against it, but obviously just it's more natural. Like speaking Spanish, like that's what I'm used to. So I never thought I would be in the place where I am now. It's something that caught me by surprise. I think the fact that we were able to establish such a close friendship, I think very, very early on with how the cards were played in terms of like how we met and how everything happened, like got me to a place where maybe sure I used to have subconscious expectations of like I will always stay in the Latin arm in a way, right? Like, and I'll always. But
like that makes sense. I get
right,
it.
Like yeah,
like a lot of people like to date what they know.
Exactly, right? Like it's obviously normal, but you shook up that reality that I had in a way. I was like, whoa. I'm kind of starting to feel feelings for you. Like I've never done this. It feels really weird. And let's be honest. I mean, I was vocal to you about this. Like, yeah. At the beginning, I was like, yeah, like it really feels nice, but it's new. It's different. It's weird. And it's something that I would remember. I would talk with my family, my parents, my friends. I was like,
he had told me like I'd never really dated like a non-Hispanic girl. Bitch, I downloaded Duolingo faster than he could finish his fucking sentence. I was like, I'm learning. Like I was like, don't you worry. I know you've never dated someone who doesn't speak Spanish, but like, I'm going to learn. It's going to be okay.
Even though it was something that I didn't think was going to happen, I do feel like part of the reason as to why I never thought it could work is because of that cultural difference. But I do think that since you were so genuine and curious about my culture, my language, and everything from the beginning, like that to me was so eye-opening where I was like, wow, like I'm building a connection with somebody that one, I never thought I would in terms of like the difference in culture, this and that. But two, like you genuinely have a curiosity to like learn, go visit Mexico with me. We've gone 3-4 times now. When you met my family, obviously this is a bit further into it, but you're so genuine. Like you speak Spanish to them. Like
I do.
You're learning.
I love speaking Spanish to his parents because they love it. Like at first I was nervous, but whenever I try, they're like, we love that. We love you.
Because it's just your character, right? It's just like your friendly, positive, fun energy that you're making the effort. And to me, that is like all I could ask for, right? Like I'm not ever going to expect that you become fluent in Spanish or you take over. Like not at all. I mean, you are who you are and I love you for who you are. But the fact that you're at least making the effort to try, that to me was, I think, the final checkbox where I was like, this is nice and I'm happy with this.
I think the biggest like cultural difference from when we first started dating that I wasn't used to, like typically when I like sit down to a dinner, whether it's with my family or my friends, it's like maybe an hour and a half. And then like you get up, dinner's over. At home, dinners with my family are like 40 minutes. They're like 40 minutes. You sit down, you eat, you talk a little and dinner's over. I meet Rafa. We go to dinner with his friends and then eventually, obviously, with his family. And I did not know that dinners last 5 hours.
Sobre mesa, baby.
Dinners last 5 hours. Sobre mesa was like culture shock to me because I thought like you sit down, you eat, maybe you have dessert and dinner's over. No. We sit down, you talk for 30 minutes, then you order a drink, then you order another drink, then you order food, then you order dessert. And then after dessert's done and all the food's gone, we sit for another 2 hours talking. And it was weird because I'd never sat at like a table for that long, but now I love it because I feel like that's like the best way to connect and bond with people. And that's how I got to become so close with your friends. I don't think I would have ever become so close with his sister, with your friends, your guy friends, your girlfriends, if it wasn't for Sobre Mesa, because we when we first started dating, would go out and we would Sobre Mesa till the bar is closed. We'd be sitting at a table at Whistler's until 3 a.m. talking, or at a restaurant. Numero 28, the amount of times we've closed that place down, it's crazy. So that's something that kind of like shocked me, I would say. Oh, and maybe like, okay, right? Like white people don't kiss each other on the fucking cheek when they meet. Like you're lucky if you get a handshake or a hug when you meet someone. A lot of the time it's like, hey, I'm Taryn. Hey, I'm this. Hey. And it was kind of a shock, not a shock. And it wasn't a shock to me, but it was just like different to like kiss everyone on the cheek. I'd never really done that. Now it comes natural and I can easily do it. But when you first start doing it, it's very like, you're kind of stiff. And I remember being like just being really awkward about it. But now like it feels so natural to me. I think that those are two of the biggest ones for me. And then one thing that shocked me too is just like how generous everyone is in your culture. Like if there's like a house party being thrown, the host has bought food for everyone and drinks for everyone and everything is for everybody and take whatever you want. Like it's also not really that way in American culture. It's kind of like you BYOB everything, which is totally fine. But I was just shocked by like how like giving and caring and generous everyone was. I don't know. That like was something that I was like, damn, this is like a completely different culture than what I was used to.
And I think that's one of the, you know, the stigmas, right, of like the Hispanic culture. It's like, it's all about like the familia, right? Like the famous saying, mi casa es tu casa. It's like, not to say like, oh, we're the nicest by any means. Obviously not. We're not better than anyone. I don't mean it in that way, but it's just so normal and we're raised that way. We're like always, you know, in Spanish you say like the prójimo, like the other, right? Like always treat for others, always, if you have something, like share it with, or at least that's the way I was raised.
Next question. What stood out about me when we first met? Like your favorite thing about me, something like that. Do you know that? That's kind of like a hard question to answer off the top of your head.
I mean, there was obviously many things, but instead of just saying like, oh, you're so pretty, you're beautiful, because that's a given. I think that usually it's common for when a guy and a girl meet and there's that initial physical attraction, like usually the guy's the first one to like start getting info, right? Asking questions, making that effort of like getting to know you. But when I met you, like you were so curious about me and like you demonstrated such a nice, genuine interest to like get to know me. And that to me was so special and cool because you don't always deal with that when you're meeting a girl. Usually like, oh, you find a cute girl, like you're the one who has to flirt. You're the one who has to like prove that, you know, there's something to give in order for her to be interested. And you were so genuine at the beginning that I was like, you have a really cool energy. Like you have a really nice heart, as cheesy as that sounds.
Thank you.
And that was like just that first feeling of like, you're sweet, you're nice.
You.
Like, I think the first time we met, you initially started telling me about your parents, your family, like how much you miss home, how much you love going to see your mom, your dad, how often you talk to your mom. Like you just brought up like your values in a way that to me was also something that was really cool. I never got like an energy that you were trying to like impress me. Like you were always very honest and genuine and real. And to me, that's something that I value a lot. For example, I remember that when we were at that date in the food truck in Marisquero, where I was like the nervous of like, oh, are you gonna like this, hate this, judge me? I remember you were like, oh my God, I need to take some pictures. Like I'm gonna text them to my mom. I was like, really? And you were like, oh my God, my mom's gonna love this. I can't wait to tell her that you brought me here. Like this is so good. I can't wait to like show her. And then when she's gonna visit me in 6 months or 3 months, I'm gonna bring her here. I was like, that's so cool. I was like, that's so sweet.
I text my mom everything I do every day. Like I text her updates of everything, which now you probably know, but at the time, yeah, I was like, of course I have to send this to my mom. Yeah,
and like the relationship that you have with your parents and how you speak about them, how you act with them. Like when I see that, like that to me is a huge green flag. I think that's beautiful.
I agree. I think, and that's a big thing in men, like how he talks and treats his mother, how he talks about and treats his mother says a lot. Says a lot, but thank you, baby. That is so sweet. I think I've been in so many situations where people are so awful at like asking questions and caring about the other person in the conversation aside from just talking about themselves. There's so many situations I've been in where people just want to talk about themselves, which I get. I like to talk about myself. People like to talk about themselves. That's just human nature. But something I've really tried to implement as I've gotten older and I've matured is like really trying to be really trying to be inquisitive, really trying to be a good listener, really trying to make people feel like special when I'm with them and like I actually do care about their life. And I've realized in so many like friendships and relationships that I've had that some people just don't fucking care and they don't care to ask questions, or even if they do ask a question, they're not even listening.
And they lack a lot of self-awareness.
Or they are asking that question so that they can then talk about themselves, whatever. And yeah, so in this relationship with you, obviously I could tell immediately that you were very mature, you were older than me. And I was like, bitch, like ask the questions, be a good listener. Like that's something I've really tried to work on because it's amazing how much stronger my relationships with people are now because I've like just implemented that in my day-to-day life of like instead of immediately talking about myself, let me ask this person like a million questions about how they're doing or how their day's going or whatever. And there's nothing better than a friendship or relationship where it's just reciprocated. Like, I think we do that really well, where it's back and forth. We're both asking each other questions, but there's just nothing worse than when someone doesn't give a fuck to ask you a single question and you're just listening. Like, sometimes it should be a balance. And I think we had that balance, and that was something that was like that's like what really drew us together. Anyways, next question. What is your favorite American dish and what is my favorite Mexican dish?
I have to guess what your favorite Mexican dish is, or you're going to say?
Well, no, I was going to have us say it, but now I like that. So yes, let's do that. I think your favorite American dish for sure is a cheeseburger. You love a fucking burger, dude.
I love a burger.
You love a burger. Like, that's a basic answer, but you fuck with a burger. Like, a lot of the time you're like, I'm going to get the burger. I want a burger. Like, you're a burger guy. You love burgers. Who doesn't love burgers?
Yeah, I feel like that's a basic
burger.
one,
the burger is the best thing to come out of this country.
I agree.
What is my favorite Mexican dish? You need to know this. I know you know this.
Fideo seco.
Yeah. Well, okay. Fideo seco is like a side, though. And that is my absolute favorite side. What is like my favorite dish? Okay, I'll give you a hint. We had this dish in Mexico City, and it's legit one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life.
Mole?
Yeah. Chicken mole from San Angelin.
Wait.
Bro.
I've only tasted heaven once, and it was
the mole at San Angelin.
My mouth, I peaked.
That day we had the chicken mole with fideo seco. Guys, it's a meal I can only dream about. Yeah. I can't wait till we go back to Mexico City. I want to go to Mexico City maybe for my birthday this year, and that is what I want for my birthday. If you are in Mexico City, you have to go to San Angelin and get the chicken mole and the fideo seco. That is probably like the best thing I've ever had, but I also there's so many notable favorites. Mexican food is fucking amazing. I love aguachile, I love ceviche, I love cochinita pibil.
Cochinita pibil.
I love
cochinita pibil.
Cochinita pibil.
Sí, that's fire.
Fuck, that shit's so fire. I love carne asada. Dude, I could go on for days. Last question. When did we say I love you? I want to tell this story because not only did I slide on this man, tell him I was into him, tell him to cut the shit, and kiss him, but I also said I love you first. It all starts at a Nora En Pure concert, which is house music. She's an amazing DJ. I really like Nora En Pure. He doesn't take me to all the house concerts because there are some that are too intense, but I do really like Nora En Pure. We had the best night, dancing all night, so much fun. We'd gone out that night, and we got back to my apartment, and we're on my couch. And the whole night I had been like, I'm going to tell him I love him tonight. Like, I'd been plotting it. Because I really felt like I did. Like, I felt like I wanted to say it. And I didn't know when you were going to say it. Honestly, I didn't know. But I said it to him that night on the couch. I was like, I love you. And you were like...
No,
you were a little shocked. Because
I wasn't expecting you to say it in that time and moment. So you were just like, I love you. And it caught me by surprise.
Yeah, and I remember you being like you were shocked. And I was like, oh, fuck. And the next day, you did say it back, obviously.
I was like, wait, that's so sweet. Like, let's talk about it.
But we had been drinking, whatever. We'd been at the concert. So the next morning he goes, do you remember what you said to me last night? I was like, obviously.
Well, because I had to make sure.
Obviously, right? I know I said I love you, but he thought like I just said it drunkenly.
Yeah, I was like, I got to make sure that you meant it. You know?
And anyway, so I said I love you first. And then flash forward months later, we're in New York for a TikTok conference. Spicy. For a work conference. And we go to the Williamsburg Hotel for a night out together.
Well, let me add just a little bit of context. In English, when you love someone, you say, I love you. Right? Like when you care for someone, you say, I love you. Like I'm not saying it doesn't have meaning or weight behind the phrase, but it's usually the phrase that you say when you express love, right? In Spanish, there's kind of like two ways of saying I love you, right? Like the first one is te quiero and the second is te amo. They both emphasize I have love for you, but te amo, that's like a true, like I am in love with you, right? Like te quiero is like I love you.
I did not know this.
So when she first initially said I love you, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet, like I love you too, and then we started telling each other I love you. To me, there was still that te amo missing, right? Like, which is a little bit of like a heavier emphasis on the phrase.
I was not aware of this, and I was always wondering, like, why doesn't he say I love you to me in Spanish? And then I realized.
Because in Spanish, it would have been like te quiero, but would have been awkward because we're already saying I love you in English. So te quiero is like less than I love you, but te amo is like kind of harder than I love. I don't know. It was weird. But anyway, yeah, maybe a month later, I don't know how, after we first said I love you, we were at the Williamsburg Hotel. If you've been, they have like a beautiful terrace and they have this like rooftop. So we're up there, we're having a drink, and we have like beautiful view of Manhattan at night. Like, it's so nice, a perfect moment. And I remember that I was like, hey, I want to teach you something about Spanish and our culture. And I explained this exactly. I was like, so in Spanish, like when you express love, right? Like there's two ways of saying it. It's te quiero, te amo, blah, blah. And I explained the whole thing. And I was like, but when you say te amo, like that's such a strong phrase that you say that like you don't just casually throw that like a, you know, you meet a friend here and like a week later you're like, oh, I love you. I was like, when you say this, like it truly comes with a lot of intention. And the reason I'm explaining all this is because the love that I feel towards you, like it's real to me. It's very strong, and it isn't just like a, oh yeah, I love you. It was like I actually love you, right? So I was like, as you may not understand it, it might not hit the same for you because maybe to you it's the same, but for me, it does have a lot of weight and meaning, and I do want to formally say that te amo, right? And like that's when I was like oh shit. And it was like the perfect setting. Like it was romantic. It was
so romantic. Mm-hmm. And we'd had the best trip together. I mean, I say that about every single trip we've taken because truly when we travel, it is so fucking fun. It's the best memories of my entire life, deadass. Like our travels are unreal. But we'd had the best trip. I think that was the last night of the trip in New York. Mm-hmm. And we were at the Williamsburg Hotel. We've had drinks. We just had that like amazing dinner at that Mexican place.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at all you were going to say because I didn't even really know the whole difference between te amo and te quiero at the time. But then you said it and like explained it to me and I was like, oh my God. And it was like so cute and romantic. Like that to me was like when we like officiated, like I love you.
Me saying that, like that was very like vulnerable, to be honest. Like it's not like I casually throw that phrase out in my past. Like when we look back into like, oh, when did you first say I love you? Like I think back of the Williamsburg.
Yeah.
And like that's like the day, like that's the memory. That's where my mind goes.
It was so special. We could talk for hours, and I feel like we just scratched the surface of everything. Like I truly think we could talk about this for hours. I loved having you on.
I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. I'm your biggest supporter. So
I'm happy to have you here. I love you. Thank you for being on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Te amo.
I think you're gonna te amo. I think you're gonna kill it in this journey and this project. I think you're such a natural, and just listening to your first 2 episodes. I mean, we talked about this even like months ago when you were like thinking about making the podcast. It's your thing. So
thank you.
I'm proud.
If it weren't for you, I don't know if I would have done it. He's helped me so much in this process. He listens to every episode before I release it. He gives me feedback. You give me honest feedback.
You got to be real.
I recorded that second episode multiple times. The first time Rafa was like, no, we were talking too fast. Like this is not you. And I re-recorded it and you were like, this is good. Like I really value that. Like someone who can like give me honest feedback. You really push me to do the things that you know that I want to do. And it means a lot to me. So thank you so much for being on. You're the best. I can't wait for you to be on another episode because there's definitely more things that we need to dive into. There was a lot of questions asked in that Q&A and we just scratched the surface. So Rafa will be back. This is not your last time seeing him on Tearing It Up. And we really tore that shit up today. We tore up how we met. We tore up a bunch of different questions. We tore up our icks. And yeah, let's go home and eat. I'm hungry.
What are you going to eat tonight? Oh, fuck.
Oh, one thing we forgot to mention. We're both Libras. If there's one thing you should know about Libras is that they're the most indecisive motherfuckers on the planet. And imagine us trying to figure out what we eat. Like I promise you right now, we're going to get in his car and we're going to sit there for 30 minutes being like this, like, who knows? I don't fucking know. But I do know that I'm hungry, so we need to end this. But Thank you guys so much for listening to the 3rd episode of Tearing It Up. Y'all are the best. I hope you enjoyed this episode. What's your outro, baby?
Muchas gracias. It was a pleasure to be here. I hope it was enjoyable. And sending out a lot of love to everyone.
Aw, that's so sweet of you.
Adios.
All right, see y'all on the next episode. Besos.
En la frente.
En la frente. One big forehead kiss. Bye.